Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for our informational town hall on our virtual academy through independent studies. My name is Angela Yerkides, and I am the Director of Specialized Programs, and I am also the administrator who oversees the virtual academy. So I want to welcome you and thank you so much for joining us. Next slide, please.
Good afternoon. I'm just going to switch to Spanish so I can give the interpretation instructions to our Spanish-speaking participants. Buenas tardes. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros en nuestra reunión. Sí tenemos interpretación disponible para ustedes. Solamente va a ir al icono del globo que dice Interpretation. Le va a hacer clic allí y luego va a escoger Spanish para español y luego Mute Original Audio para que no se oigan los dos idiomas. Si le tenemos las instrucciones en el chat, se lo vamos a poner allí y si necesita apoyo o ayuda con algo, por favor, mándanos un chat. Gracias. Thank you, Ms. Angela.
Thank you. And then we have, before we get started with our basics, I just want to recognize that we do have some cabinet and our superintendent that are with us today. So I want to thank them for joining us. Courtney?
Yep, good evening. I am Courtney Weber, coordinator under Angela Yerkides, and tonight we are looking at basics for excellence. So if we can focus on our sense of purpose for why we do what we do, our actions, excuse me, are focused and contribute to the attainment of our mission. Back to you, Angela.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Next slide, please. So I wanted to let you know what our agenda for today is. I gave my welcome and I'll be sharing what our objective is specifically for this evening. We'll be sharing the virtual academy options with you. Mr. Buckner will be going over the enrollment pieces for the virtual academy options. And then we'll be asking for you to share any questions that you may have after the presentation. We have received the questions that were submitted before our town hall meeting today. So we have looked over those and we feel that we should be able to cover all of those questions that you have submitted before we met. And but if not, please make sure that you let us know so we can ensure to get those questions answered for you as much as we can. Next slide, please. So the district has been offering a virtual option through independent studies for several years. Many of you may not have known that. We have had an independent studies program that has been run through the Alternative Learning Center for over a decade. And so what we're going to do this evening is to share information on how we will be expanding that virtual academy for the new school year. Next slide, please.
And today, we definitely want to hear from you. You will be given 2 opportunities to ask a comment or question. We ask that for today's session, if you have a general question about the virtual academy, that you please use the chat to provide the comment or the question, and we will be answering and monitoring the chat. Can you go to the next slide, please? And if you have a question specific to your student or specific to your household, we ask that you please text the question in, and we will be monitoring the text and sending them out so someone can contact you and answer or assist specifically to you or your student. So thank you.
So I just wanted to go back to that last slide just real quick, if you wouldn't mind. I just wanted to add, we want to honor all of our children's anonymity and their privacy. We are recording and we do have a lot of people on here tonight. And so again, if you have anything that's specific to your individual child to protect them, we do ask that you text that information to us and we'll make sure to get back to you as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. So I wanted to start off with kind of how we came to being here with you tonight. So there was a law that was enacted called SB 98 that allowed us to do distance learning for this school year. And so I put a quote in this slide from the CDE, the California Department of Education, that basically informs us all that SB 98 will be expiring or sunsetting as of June 30th. So that means per legislation, there is no way for us to teach our children through the distance learning option as it is currently written in SB 98. So once it expires, if the state doesn't roll out additional legislation or an amendment to this current law, the only way Ed Code allows for us to offer an option where students don't have to learn in person 5 days a week at school site is through the Independent Studies Ed Code. Independent Studies Ed Code has to be followed as we build this program. We also have to look at our current resources and the enrollment of students and staffing that we'll have available. As I shared before, the district has offered a traditional independent studies option and a virtual independent studies option for several years. The district anticipates there will be more students than in the past interested in an option that allows students to learn from home. Because of this anticipated need, the Independent Studies program is planning on expanding its current offerings. We are still in the planning stages on the specific details of what this will look like, but we wanted to share with you all of the information we do have and answer any questions that you may have. In all transparency, there will be questions that as of tonight, we won't be able to answer. This may be because we don't know yet how many students will be enrolling, and we don't know the staffing availability. The district is currently in negotiations to determine the process for staffing to accommodate this expansion. Even if we don't have the answers though, your questions will guide us in our planning and inform us of the communication that we have to make sure that we follow through with. Next slide. So as you can see, we are providing 3 different options for our Independent Studies Virtual Academy. One of the reasons that we wanted to meet with you tonight is to make sure that you have as much information as we do up to this point on the program that we're able to offer. These options are available through Independent Studies. As with any Independent Studies program, parents play a key role in the education of their children. The first option, and I'll go in more detail with the additional slides. The first option is going to be similar to our current distance learning model, and that's going to be available for our grades TK through 8. The second option is our K-12 online platform. So that will be a 100% digital curriculum for those children. And then we'll have our TK through 12 traditional independent studies program that's more aligned with what we currently kind of consider as the homeschool model. And again, I just want everybody to understand that all of these programs that are going to be offered are through independent studies. Next slide. So the first option that I want to share with you is our TK through 8 teacher-led virtual program. And initially, this wasn't an option until we met with some stakeholders, and they shared with us that they felt that the current distance learning model option was really working for their students and for their teachers, and that it would be more closely in alignment if we could offer something similar with what the in-person schooling is offering. And so as you can see, this one is the one that most closely mirrors what we're currently doing in our distance learning. And there's a little image right there for you to kind of see what that looks like. That should be really familiar to you. And so with this model, there will be daily live instruction and attendance that we're going to require. The teachers will be teaching students with digital and textbook curriculum similar to what they're doing currently. We will be providing tutoring and individual support, and that will all be virtually. And of course, it's important to understand that parent-supervised asynchronous activities will be happening daily. And the way that we collect our ADA for independent studies is submission of work. And so that submission of work is going to be critical in order to ensure that attendance is calculated for each child. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next one is our K-12 online virtual learning program. And we currently have this, and we've had it for several years. It's called virtual learning, and we've had it for our 9th through 12th graders. So we are going to offer this to K through 12, and we are looking at Edmentum. So you see the little icon down there. And this is where a child interacts with all of his learning through an online program. And so, however, we want to ensure that there's as much teacher support as possible. And so we will be offering daily instructional support with the classroom teacher. So there will be times where synchronous instruction will be occurring, and then times where your child can go in and receive tutoring on specific interventions that they feel they need. In addition to that, there will be daily office hours with a teacher that will be available to support you and your student. And including in that is tutoring and individual support. Again, this is independent study, so parent supervision is important in ensuring, especially with the younger grades, that your child is engaging proficiently with their online curriculum, and there is a pacing that they have to adhere to in order to keep up so that they can gradually move throughout the program. And the 9th through 12th grade is based on independent learning with parent as your primary supervisor. Weekly meeting at the very minimum. You can do it more, but there's a weekly minimum meeting with the teacher and the student. And the students do take 6 or more classes per semester, but no more than 3 classes at a time, and they do that on a block schedule. We do have the ability to individualize this currently. There are some students that want to move faster through it and some students that need a little bit more time. So the way we run our current program, we're able to adjust it based on the needs of the student. Next slide. And then finally, we have, and this one has 2 slides because there was a lot of text. So this is the first slide of our TK through 12 independent studies. So currently it will be similar to what it is now. However, in the past, it's been more traditional textbook, paper, pencil. However, in the last year or 2, we've added some digital curriculum components. So there are those options available. This is independent learning with teacher support. In this model, you have teachers that will assign work weekly, and on a very minimum, there's a weekly meeting to meet virtually or in person. So we're still having this as an option to meet in person for this one. And tutoring and small group support are available. So with independent studies, there is a minimum requirement for all of our programs as far as work submission, meetings, and those guidelines we have to follow, but we can always do more. So just know that you can meet more than that with your teacher, but that's the minimum. Next slide. And then finally, we have added TK to this through the input of our stakeholders, but just understanding that it is based on the homeschool model, and parents are a primary instructor with the minimum weekly requirement of the parent, teacher, and student. For the TK through 8 students, we do work based off of the traditional trimester semester pacing. There is a master agreement that has to be signed by the student, the parent, and the school that honors that the expectations of all of the parties involved in supporting the child. And again, same as with the online curriculum, the independent learning has, for 9th through 12th grade, they're more independent, but there does require that there's some sort of supervision at home to make sure that they are meeting the expectations of the master agreement, as well as the pacing that's set forth with the master agreement. Next slide, please. Okay, so there were a lot of questions about programs. And so I'm going to go over programs. There were questions that we've received about staffing, who will be my child's teacher, all of those kinds of questions. I'll be sharing information about breakfast and lunch that could be provided for your child. And then I'm going to share with you some information on these resource sites that have been created. And as we go and there's questions that are being raised, we have a frequently asked questions section that you can go to see if the more information on the program and questions that have come up pretty frequently. So for our programs, we are a school with learning options through the independent studies model. As such, we would like to be able to offer multiple programs within our school, but we just haven't been set up that way in the past. As far as programs being offered in the school, it will be based on students that are enrolled, which, as you know, we have our window has been opened starting today to enroll students, as well as the staffing that we are allotted. Programs such as GATE, IB, and dual immersion can only be taught by a teacher who has that specific certification or credential. These programs are only offered at specific schools throughout the district and not at every school. So again, we can't guarantee any programming at this time. It's going to be based on those things that I just mentioned as we move forward with our planning. Students with IEPs will have to have an IEP meeting at their current school in order to address if the independent studies program at Virtual Academy is an appropriate placement for your student. So this decision isn't made by me. This decision is made during that IEP meeting with the IEP team, which you would be involved in that team. As far as staffing goes, I know that the district is currently working with the union and negotiations in order to create the processes on how they will move forward with the staffing of the Virtual Academy. And so that's currently in the works with HR. And breakfast and lunch. Students will have the ability to pick up their meals, the grab and go meals, and I do believe that they will be at designated sites that will be shared with students and parents. The students will receive 7 days of breakfast, lunch, and snack and supper each week for the next school year. So that will include our program as well. So you can go to the nearest location. If our sites are not the nearest location, ALC is in the back of San Andreas High School. So if that's not your nearest location, you can go to that one to pick up your grab and go meals. And then finally, we have the resource sites. I don't know if I can probably put them in the chat for you, but those are actually hyperlinks in the slide I don't have access to, but I'll put those in the chat, or I'll ask somebody else to do that for me, but I'll make sure that you get that information. What it is, it's a Google site that has all the information on this program, on the options, and then again, the frequently asked questions, as well as the people that you can contact if you have more questions or need more information. Okay, next slide, please. Leonard? Leonard, are you there?
I was on mute. I apologize. Let me go back to, I think I was sharing my screen, but here we go. So I'm the director. My name is Leonard Buckner. I'm the director over Enrollment and Placement Services. And so I'm here to share with you information around enrollment. So our enrollment window has opened. It opened today. So it is May 13th through the 30th of this month. And enrollment can be done via our Aries Parent Portal. I'm going to provide a demonstration after my presentation so that parents will be able to see exactly how to access Aries Parent Portal and make their selection if they so choose. And if you don't have a Aries Parent Portal, then you can also have a contact with our family engagement, and they can help you create an Aries Parent Portal. So when we're dealing with enrollment, SBCUSD's Virtual Academy is a different school. So you would have to unenroll in your child's current school, and they would enroll into the Virtual Academy. And so if you wanted to go from the Virtual Academy back to a traditional school, such as San Bernardino High or Serrano or Parkside, if there was no space at your child's grade level, your child would be capped out basically to a different school. So you are changing schools. If you decide to go to Virtual Academy, it is a different school. Again, if you choose not to, parents, if you do nothing, if you're just kind of getting information and you say, I don't want to do anything, I want my child to go to in-person learning, traditional school, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to select anything. We will automatically schedule your student for in-person learning. Again, as we deal with transfers, again, so if you're at Parkside Elementary now and you decide you want to do the Virtual Academy and then you decide you want to go back to Parkside, it's not guaranteed. It is based on space. So I want that to be very clear. Also, we look for transfers to be done at a natural transition. So at the end of the quarter or at the end of a semester. So is when we'd like to see transfers done. Although we try the best to meet the needs of our parents, but we do not guarantee that they will go back to the same school that they decided to leave at that time.
So Leonard, I'd like to take a minute to kind of explain before we get into the demonstration, the reason around space. So as you may know, our schools are staffed based on enrollment. So if students are getting transferred or their parent wants them to go to the Virtual Academy, the teachers that are allocated for that school may change because they have less students going to that school. And so the teachers that were maybe at Parkside may get moved over to the virtual center, to the Virtual Academy. And that's why there's less spaces for kids at those schools. And so the more kids that go back to traditional school, then there's more space for kids because that's our regular program. And so we have to adjust the number of, we don't get more teachers, we have a certain amount of teachers that we have to distribute throughout our schools, all based on enrollment. If we get more enrollment, so we get more kids coming to our school district, then we get more teachers. But if we have the same amount of students, then we get the same amount of teachers. So I want to make sure that people understand that it's not that those spaces are still there. Those spaces are not there because those spaces went to the Virtual Academy.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Now we're going to jump into how do you access and select the virtual learning option. So you're going to go to your parent portal. So that's little icon here, and I'm going to demonstrate what it may look like or what it will look like. So as you're coming into your Aries Parent Portal, you'll be required to enter your username, which is your email, and you'll enter your password that you have created. And you'll come into the Aries Parent Portal and you'll see this. Again, this is a training module here, but your student, imagine this being your student. And you will come to where it says student information, and you will click on student information, and then you will come all the way down until you see what's called the alternative learning options through independent study. So as you click on that, it will bring you to the alternative learning options through independent study screen. And if you had not had a selection before, there would be a box that says add, and you'll see alternative learning option, and you'll see where it says date entered. So as you push on the drop down box, you'll see the three choices here that Mrs. Urquidy spoke to you about. TK through 8, the teacher-led virtual program, K-12, K through 12, online virtual learning, and TK through 12 traditional independent studies. So you select the one that you desire. So if it's choice number 2, you select that. You go to the calendar here. Today is the 13th. So you select your date and hit save. So now that information is saved into our information system, and our independent study program and staff and school site principals will be able to look at this information and determine where the enrollment is going for the virtual learning program. Now, let's say you change your mind. You think about it for about a week and you need to change your mind and you want a different option. Well, you come back into your parent portal. You can come here and select a different option. And you put the date and you hit save. So now the option has been changed. You may say, you know what, I don't want my child to do independent study or virtual learning. So you want to change and say, I would just want them to go to in-person learning. So what you can do is highlight the number here. You hit delete or backspace. Then you come to save. And it's blank. So now it shows that there was no option selected. If this is blank, then your student would automatically be scheduled for in-person learning. Again, the window is from May 13th through May 30th. Let me return this slides back over to the team.
Next slide, please. There you go. Thank you so much, Leonard. And so what we really wanted to do is to be able to provide you with a comprehensive overview of where we're at in this process, what's being offered, and how you can access it, and give you time to be able to ask us questions. So here, right, is the slide for contact information. So Josie Chambers and Robin Eberhardt are the program specialists, and their contact information is also on the resource sites that I put into the chat. And then you have Courtney Weber, who you met. She's the coordinator. I'm the director for specialized programs, and then Mr. Leonard Buckner is the director for enrollment and placement services. So if you have any questions, concerns, need additional information, please reach out and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Next slide, please.
And so we just want to remind you that if you have a general question, please type it in the chat and we will be monitoring that. And again, if you have a specific question about your student or your household, please text the number. I will be typing the Google number in the chat again. Thank you.
And as we're waiting for those who are asking questions, if you could go to the next slide, please. One more, please. We wanted to share that next week and the week after, there will be additional informational meetings that every school site is going to be providing. So if you haven't yet heard when your Child School is going to be providing their informational meetings. Reach out to your school, check their websites. That information will be coming to you. So every school will have these informational meetings that will be able to answer any questions you have about starting the new school year. Do we have some questions?
So Angela, before we have questions, Dr. Volkemer has entered and Dr. Funches, and we also have Scott Wyatt, one of our board members. So, you know, we want to give them an opportunity just to greet our parents and let them know that they're here to support their students' educational programs.
Let's have Dr. Wyatt go first, please.
Well, thank you, Dr. Volkemer, and thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. And just want to say good evening to everyone, and especially to our parents and our families that are here. I know this has been a very, very challenging year, and next year is a year of optimism, and I'm sure concern as well. So I'm really, really pleased that our, San Bernardino Unified School District staff have put together an alternative plan and approach for us, and are continuing to research best practices and create multiple opportunities and delivery models for our students. Again, we're going into a new year, hopefully with a lot of positive attitudes and a lot of hope, because that's what we're about, making hope happen. But I trust our staff at our downtown and our staff that are working on this to create an outstanding program, first of all, and a program that hopefully our students will enjoy and that you will feel safe with our children that are going to be in. For those of you who don't know, my son was a senior this year, so of course it was a very challenging year for us as well. He struggled with distance learning, while other students flourished with distance learning. So we want to make sure we have as many options as possible going into next year, again, because we know there's still, some doubt and some concern, but we're going to approach it again with a positive attitude and a lot of optimism. So thank you for everyone for being here tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Wyatt. And I'll just echo what Dr. Wyatt said, that our board has always been about meeting as many needs as they possibly can in terms of program choice and options for students. And we're gonna do our very best to accommodate as many people as possible. As you can imagine, there are so many variables that go into that. We may not be able to meet every single person's need in every single way, but you have our commitment that we'll do our best. And these town hall meetings are really designed for us to give information and to get information and to hear what's on your mind so that you can share what you're experiencing, what you're looking for, and that helps us to round out our plans for next year. We're very hopeful, and the trends are looking good that we'll be able to open for in-person instruction. But we also know that even with vaccines being available now for 12-year-olds and up, that some families are not going to be comfortable sending their kids back to school, and we respect that. And so we're gonna be able to try to give as many options as we possibly can, including the virtual academy. So we appreciate you being here. I want to thank staff for the what probably seems endless amount of work at this point that they've been doing. And just about when we think we've got it dialed in, the guidance changes a little bit and we've got to redial it again. But I'm so thankful for them, and just know, parents and guardians and grandparents and everybody in the audience, that they're working extremely hard on your behalf and on your students' behalf. And so like I said, we'll continue to do our best for you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so do we have the first person with their question?
Yes, it looks like Miss Levy Servin.
Hi, good afternoon. I apologize. I did come a little late because I was having internet issues to try to log in. I don't know if this is already answered, but do you guys have the parameters of what's being offered through Virtual Academy? Like, what are the instructional minutes versus what we had this year? What's going on? Because in order to for us parents to make an informed decision, we got to know what our kids are going to be given, or what's our option versus them going back to in-person.
So as far as the instructional day, independent study requires that the work is the same as regular in-person school. So we will be requiring, depending on the model, time daily in front of the teacher, as well as the instructional work that will meet the instructional minutes that are currently per ed code. We don't have the specifics on that yet. We have some things that are still being negotiated, but it's all in alignment with our current instructional minutes with the in-person.
Okay, so they're going to be in front of the computer for 5-6 hours then versus what we have right now that they're in the computer for approximately 4 hours or so?
The goal is to have it that the first option, the teacher-led virtual option, to be very similar to what the students are in right now, which would probably be a few hours of the day where they're getting direct instruction and support, and then a couple of hours in the day where they're doing their asynchronous work. So that would be the first model. And then the second two models, the minimum requirement will be meeting once a week with a teacher to make sure that they're on pace with the submission of their work. That's more of an independent homeschool piece. One is digital, where it's all online through a digital curriculum. And then the other one has the flexibility to be textbook, district adopted curriculum with some online support. So it just depends on which model you're looking at.
Okay, so not the independent study, but the one where it's more similar to what we have right now in distance learning. Before, like, I mean, for us parents to be able to make an informed decision, are you guys going to release this information before the due date for this, for our option? How is this going to work?
So all three options are independent studies. We're just trying to accommodate as many needs as we can with each of those options. As far as will we know ahead of time, I can't guarantee you that, but I will be updating the Google site, and I can put those in the chat again since you logged on a little later. And that will have the most up-to-date information on the schedules and the programming and the enrollment that we have each day. I'll be updating that.
Okay, so does that mean the way you have now may change down the road 1-2 months later, and it may not be the same?
No, the options will remain the same. So the details of each option specifically, we haven't hammered all those out yet. So, but all three options will be the same. So if you're looking at the option with the distance learning mirroring that one, that it will still be offering it. We just don't have the specifics on it yet. As far as times, like,
yeah, I understand, but as parents, it'd be easier for make a decision if we have all the parameters and know what's going to be going on.
Yeah, I completely understand, and we're trying to get that as soon as possible.
And what is the deadline again for this, for our final decision as far as we're going to enroll them in distance learning?
May 30th.
May 30th. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Urban, if this helps you at all, think about, it's not going to be any less than what you're getting now. It will not be any less than what you're getting now, because we're basing the program on the existing distance learning model for the daily instructional minutes. So our HR assistant superintendent, Dr. Funches, has been working with our unions just to make sure that we have a good understanding between the teachers and the district of expectations of what that will look like. And as soon as that's finalized, which will be within the next couple of days, crossing our fingers, we will post that information to the website. And if we have to have another one of these town hall meetings, we are happy to do that.
Okay, also, okay, say they're getting capped out if we go for the virtual option. What happens next school year? Do they get their homeschool spot back, or how's that going to work?
So the next year, 22-23, if you decide that you don't want the virtual school anymore and you decide to go back to a traditional school, they would go back to their resident school. So based on where your address is, that would be their home school. So they would enroll in their home school.
Is that a guarantee though, that they're going to be able to get their spot on their homeschool, or is there a chance that they might not be there and they might be sent even further or somewhere else?
Well, I can't say it's not a guarantee, because if, the numbers increase and students are already enrolled in the school, and then you decide, depending whenever you decide to, oh, I want to go, your child's in third grade, I want to go back to my home school. If there's no space in third grade, then yes, they would be capped out.
Okay, so my child has been in this school since kindergarten, and due to this whole COVID stuff, he would lose his place basically and start all over again, basically in the list.
Well, yeah, because you're changing schools. So if you go from one school to another school, yes, your spot.
So basically, virtual learning is a different school, basically.
Correct. Virtual learning is a different school. If you would leave one school and enroll in another school.
As a parent, I think you guys really got to emphasize that, because a lot of parents are going to be under the understanding that, okay, well, it's just like our regular school, they're just going to be virtual. But if that's a big factor for us parents, like realizing that our kids are going to lose their spot in their home school. You might really want to emphasize that, like in your meetings, and let them really know. Because I'm a PTO mom. I know a lot of the parents, and a lot of them are clueless of what's going on. They're thinking the virtual is going to be the same situation as this year.
Yes, definitely. And that's why we wanted to make sure that when the window opened, that there was as much information out there as possible. Absolutely.
I'm just saying, like in your flyers, it just says, okay, these are your options and this, but you're not, I don't know, maybe somewhere on there put like, I don't know, like the fine print basically saying, there's a chance you might lose your spot in your home school due to this, because virtual school is not with your school anymore. It's another school. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sanchez, Vanessa Sanchez.
Hi, I have a question. I have a child that goes to school, and I am very hesitant when her lose her place in her school. She's been garden, and I felt a safety net of having to call school and having to speak to somebody. So doing this whole online thing is kind of scary, not for me, but only for my child. But she also does other classes for music, Broadway. So will that mean she will lose her spot in that too?
So in Broadway now, that's like one of our CAPS programs, correct?
Yes, and she also does music. So will she also lose doing those classes after I just completely signed her up again to do so before making this decision? So I'm at a point if she should return her musical instruments, and along with a lot of the stuff that we've gotten from Broadway now. I just signed her up for another year. I'm not sure how this is gonna work if I signed her up for online.
Yeah. So our Broadway Now is one of our CAPS programs, and it is offered only at certain school sites. It's not offered at all of our schools. And so we will be offering CAPS, but we may not be offering Broadway Now at the virtual school. So that is something that needs to be considered. Our music programs are offered at our traditional settings. And again, we won't know until it's all based on enrollment. So if there is a need and desire, we're going to do our best to make sure that we can provide those enrichment activities. But what we're trying to do is provide kind of a foundational program for students in the virtual setting. And it's not going to be, in all honesty, our best settings are going to be back in school. And so we want them in-person school, because that's where your child is going to get everything that they're not used to getting. And so in the virtual setting, we're going to do our very best to provide as much as we can, but it's not going to be the same. What I just
okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for the question.
Autumn, if you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
I think that question was similar to hers, but my question was, which option that is high school or high school is similar to what we already are doing now?
So we don't have an option for high school that's similar to what we're doing now with the distance learning. In our planning and in working with the principals, they felt that just there were so many unknowns that just wasn't going to work with the single subject credential teachers and those kinds of things. And so for high school, we only have the two options, which is the digital online curriculum and then the traditional independent studies model.
But what about the teachers who are teaching single subject that are high school that don't feel comfortable going back as well?
So I know that HR is working on a process to work with those teachers. At this time, I'm just not sure right now what that process is because they haven't decided what the situation is for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Rosa, if you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Rosa, are you still there? I'm not sure if Rosa's still here or if her question was answered. So I'm going to go ahead to the next person and then we'll come back and check on Rosa.
She said she's still here, but she has a problem with her microphone.
Disculpe, ya se conectó.
¿Usted es Rosa?
Sí.
Oh, ok.
Mi pregunta era que a la hora que los niños regresen a la escuela, van a tener su horario completo, por ejemplo, como que viene siendo de 8:50 a 3:30, o se les reducirán horas.
Ok, yo soy el intérprete, yo puedo traducir lo que dijo. She was saying that when children return, to the new school year, are they going to have the same, schedule, as far as time?
Are we talking about for the in-person school? Is she wondering what that
is? ¿Está hablando para los estudios presenciales o de los estudios virtuales? Es una pregunta para usted, Rosa.
I can, I see she's having a problem with her microphone. I can share that we are working for the virtual program to align with the same school hours as the in-person learning. So elementary virtual hours would align with elementary regular school hours. But as far as if you're asking about your school, I would recommend reaching out to your school site and attending those school informational meetings to get the best information for that.
Okay, dijo pues que quiere que sean iguales el horario, si su hijo está en primario, pues que si son estudios presenciales o si son estudios virtuales, que sería el mismo horario. Si tiene una pregunta acerca de su escuela, pues entonces tiene que hablar con su escuela para conseguir la información.
Ok, es que tenía problemas con mi micrófono. Sí, yo hablaba de las presenciales, de que si yo decidía mandar a mis hijos, o sea, si iba a ser todo el horario completo. Eran de las presenciales.
Sí, es el horario completo. Yeah, she just said that she was talking about in-person instruction and if it would be the same, same amount of hours of instruction. I told her that yes.
Okay, thank you.
Gracias.
Okay, up next, we don't have a name, it's just the phone number starting with 842. If you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question, please.
Yes. My question is, what is the process of our kids returning back to in-person school? What is the plan to keep them safe, and how will that work?
Do we have Eric the chair on the line? Or anyone from safety?
Sure, but I'll try to answer the question. So in regards, and my internet, just like yours, is cutting in and out, so I'll do my best. So if you're interested in in-person, we will be following guidelines that come from the state of California, from the CDPH. And so that information has been posted, and you will be receiving information about in-person from your school and what that will look like and what we will be doing to keep your kids safe at those school informational meetings. So if you're wanting to know more specifically about where might the hand washing stations be, or the water filling stations, or what might the classrooms look like, all that will be answered at your school, wherever your student is attending. They will have that meeting. So I encourage you to attend that to get the information that you need. In regards to, there was some questions around, does a student have to stay in virtual learning? No, that's your decision as a parent. We want to encourage you to make the best choice that you can make for your family. Of course, we want to push our in-person programs because we believe that we get to see your child every single day, and we'll be able to provide them with before school, during school, after school programming, and get them back to as normal life as possible. And get them to be socializing with their friends. And so, that is always what we would like to do. But we understand that, parents have some concerns. And so we want to be able to offer that virtual option for you. If you decide to change your mind and you decide, I'm going to give it a chance and I'm going to have my student go back to regular school, you can do that. All that takes is an appointment with the principal, which would be Mr. Keaties, and discuss those options. And if there's no space at your school at that present moment, you can stay in distance learning until there's a space available. So we will work with you to do what we can to make sure that we're meeting your needs. We know that people's life changes. Like, let's say you have a change in your schedule, and so you're not able to be at home to watch your student. We understand that, and we will do everything that we can to meet you where you're at, to be able to provide you what your student needs. I hope I answered the questions.
You did, thank you. But our school hasn't provided any information on back to school. This is the first thing I heard about virtual meetings and stuff like that. So I have no information on my school or my kid's school, safety, nothing. We don't have no information on that. So I'm kind of lost. Like, if they want our kids to return back to school, they should have sent that first out.
Yeah, and you can call your school and they can give you the information. They should be sending it out on their class dojo. Some schools have put their information on Instagram, but you can always call your school. There should be somebody live that's answering the phones to get the information that you want to hear, especially the information for that meeting.
Yes, since our school's only open one day, Monday, and it's only from 8 a.m. to, I believe, 3.
Okay. I want to get your information. I don't want to put it on blast. If you can.
I have her contact information in her text. I will share it with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Selena. I will get back to you and make sure that you get what you need, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Jessica's S20. Did you still want to ask your question?
Yeah, so I just had a quick question about kids who are going to be new enrollees into the school. Like, let's say they're starting kindergarten and you don't have like a parent portal to log on, how is it going to work for us?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I apologize.
Yeah, so like kids who are starting, let's say kindergarten, it's their first time going to like school, and you want to enroll them into virtual instead of going, how is it going to work on the enrollment process on that side?
So one of the things we're working on right now is to add that to our Aries online enrollment. So probably within the next week or so, working with our IT department, hopefully we'll be able to add that school number and then add it to our Aries online enrollment. And then new coming students into our district, if their parent chooses that, they'll be able to enroll.
So also what you can do is call the school that you believe your student should be attending, go there and enroll your child. And then at that point, they'll help you to get on the parent portal. And then at that point, you can make your choice. But go to your school, tell them that you want to enroll your child, and then tell them as you enroll that you want the virtual option, and they'll make sure to get your information, put it in the computer so that we can create an Aries account for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We love kindergartners, so keep them coming.
Miss Pamela Goodwin, did you still want to ask your question? Pamela?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hello?
we can.
Okay, thank you. All right. I came on the meeting a little late in the beginning when you guys were talking about the different options. But I had a question in regards to one of the parents just asked relating to high school students. So forgive me if I'm asking you to repeat the options again, but it sounds like for the high school students, they only have two options, traditional school or to continue the online. We don't have an option for like a hybrid where they can go to school for a couple of days and be at home for a couple of days.
No, there's no hybrid option that's being offered currently in the district for next school year.
Okay, so the high school students I want to be clear, their only two options are to continue the virtual, what they're doing now, or either do the traditional coming back to school full time.
Yes, ma'am. And that's not just for high school, that's for all of our students. There's a virtual, there's a virtual option and then the in-person option.
Okay. Then my second question would be for the students that have transportation. Will transportation still be offered when they return back?
In person?
Yes, for in person, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Do we have transportation on the line?
Angela, I'm here.
Hi.
So yes, when we return to in-person instruction, all students who are typically eligible for transportation would receive transportation at the start of the new school year.
Okay. And if the response is if you want them to continue in traditional, you don't have to do anything.
That's right. You don't have to do
as far as enrollment.
You're absolutely correct. If you want them to continue with just regular traditional school, you don't have to do anything. They'll be automatically enrolled.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Christina's iPhone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I have a question regarding my son is in high school and he's at Sierra High School, the continuation. How would that work, because it's not, regular school? They currently do the blocks every 6 weeks and they transfer classes and teachers. So how would it work if I chose to keep him home doing virtual? And then also a question. I know on, I think it was Monday in the other town hall meeting, you guys talked about the masks and the children would have to wear the masks going back. I just wanted to know, would you guys be changing that since yesterday the governor announced that starting in June, the mask mandate will no longer be in effect?
Hi, thank you for asking those questions. I can answer the first one for you. So your child will be transferring schools from Sierra into the virtual academy, and then he would be following the schedule at the virtual academy. And what we normally do is 2 to 3 classes every 6 weeks. So they're more, they advance quicker at Sierra, and that wouldn't be an option through this program. It would be kind of more traditional, six classes per semester at the virtual academy. And then I think I can ask Eric, Mr. Vitir, to help with the masking question, please.
I will, Angela, thank you. So yeah, we're closely following the relaxing of restrictions that we're all hearing about. We do know that just because the CDC announces something, it still needs to come over to California. And our California Department of Public Health has to determine the impact and provide clear guidance and changes to their rules. And then they have to relay that out to each county who has to adjust it to their rules. So really what we're doing is waiting to see what the rules are going to be relaxed in our area and see what that means for us. And then we will inform our school board, and then we will make changes as directed at that point. So we're kind of all waiting to see the same thing, see what happens from the changes coming.
Okay, thank you both. Thank you for your help.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Sylvia Adriana Garcia?
Yes.
Did you still want to ask your question out loud? ¿Tiene pregunta?
Sí. Para mis niñas que quiero que sigan en el estudio virtual, tengo 2 en la high school y 1 en el middle school. ¿Qué necesito hacer y por cuánto tiempo más pueden estar en las clases virtuales?
Okay, she was saying that she would like her daughters to continue in virtual studies. She has, I think she said 2 in middle school and 1 in high school, but students in middle school and high school. For how long will they be able to be in a virtual class situation?
So we're going to be offering Virtual Academy as we proposed today for the whole school year. We have been offering a smaller version for the past several years. So our intention is to continue with this expansion as there's need. So for the foreseeable future, we're expecting to offer a virtual option through our independent studies program.
So, los estudios virtuales serán para todo el año, pero por varios años ha habido un programa de estudios independientes, estudios virtuales, y pues planean seguir pues con estos programas en el futuro.
Ok, ¿no necesito hacer nada para seguir en esas clases?
Do I need to do something to be able to continue in these classes?
It will be an option each year at the end of the school year, if that's what you choose to do. And then we will be able to provide you with that information at that time as far as how you would make sure that your child continues in the virtual program.
¿Será que cada año, al final del año, pues tomar una decisión si quieren que sigan en el programa virtual, y entonces le dará la información acerca de, del programa virtual?
Ok, ¿para cuándo sería eso? ¿O tengo que hablar yo a la escuela de mis hijos?
So when would this be? I'll need to talk to my children's school.
If you want your child in the virtual academy, you'll just go into your Aries parent portal and choose the option for alternative learning.
So, si quiere que sus hijos estén en el programa virtual, tiene que entrar en el portal Aries para padres y seleccionar el programa virtual.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It is 7:06. I want to give a few more minutes to answer questions, but I do want to honor our time here together. So make sure that we capture your questions either in the chat or in the text to make sure that if we aren't able to address it in person today, we can make sure we capture that and send that information to you.
Can I respond, make a comment, public comment, please?
Go ahead, Ms. Dean.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Phasia Dean, and I'm a graduating student from Cal State University and member of the Alliance of Black Women Accountants. So I wanted to bring awareness that the Alliance of Black Women Accountants has a scholarship available for high school students of any age, ranging from 500 to I think 5,000. And so I did send an email to you guys, and I hope you guys can follow up. I can put, it has also the link, and I think it's useful. And so all they have to do is go to the website and apply. But this organization is trying to help create awareness and help Black women learn about counting. And I think it can help the community. So as they go into high school, they can become familiar, and we can also help them. So I just want to bring awareness to the Alliance of Black Women Accountants. Would you like for me to put any information in the chat box?
Yeah, you can put information in the chat. Thank you.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, you can put information in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, I also sent an email. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I know it's up to 7, so just let him go. It's okay.
Thank you. I see we have about 3 more hands, so we're just gonna finish through those. Rosalia Lopez. Rosalia Lopez, are you there? Okay, we'll come back.
Hello?
Yes, thank you.
My question is, how do you schedule the classes for your students?
Are you talking about for high school?
Yes.
Okay, so when you choose the virtual option, we'll gather that information, we'll be reaching out, and then we will schedule an intake where we look at transcripts to determine what your goals are, the current classes, the classes that you've taken, and then set out a plan for you, and those will be the classes that you choose to take in the block schedule. It's usually 2 classes per block. So we would have a one-on-one conversation to make sure we get you in the classes that you need.
But that's in virtual, right?
Yes, in virtual and in the traditional independent studies. Were you asking about in person?
Yes, in person.
Okay. So I would recommend that you reach out to, are you currently enrolled in one of our high schools?
No, it's gonna be his first year there.
Okay, so anybody more familiar with how the high schools will be reaching out to incoming 9th graders and what she can expect?
Yes, it will be like a normal process, like how students enrolled in a middle school or in an elementary. And then the counselors will provide those informational meetings. Is your student going from middle school at San Bernardino, from San Bernardino to a high school in San Bernardino, or is the student coming from outside the district?
No, he's coming from the San Bernardino district to the high school.
Okay, so your child would have already been identified for what is the high school that he is going to, and then the enrollment automatically happens at their high school, and then there'll be communications that will be sent. I know Mr. Buckner can talk about the enrollment process. But normally, once your child goes into your school, there's informational sessions, and then counselors will be meeting, and they will have a 4-year plan for your student on what are the right classes to take in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and so on. And they will be frequently monitoring his progress and make sure that, if there is any support that needs to be done, they will be providing those supports. And I will request Mr. Buckner to talk about enrolling into high school.
So if your student is already in one of our middle schools, based on their address, that will determine what their home high school is. And so they will automatically roll over to their home high school. So there's nothing you have to do as a parent. They're already in the process of being rolled over, and then counselors and will begin to reach out to your student.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the last question we have Adriana. You can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, yes, I have a question. My 5-year-old is gonna start kindergarten next year, but I had enrolled him for the bilingual program. With the virtual, there's not gonna be any bilingual?
At this time, there is no bilingual program through the virtual academy.
And my other question was, in person, for kindergarten and the smaller children, is the classes gonna be cut like in half to reduce the number of students per class, or are they gonna be just regular classes?
Is Mr. Batir still on?
I am. I'm sorry. Would you repeat the question?
Yeah, for in person, is there gonna be like smaller classes, like for number of students, or is gonna be just regular number of students per class?
So it'll be dependent on the number of students that are enrolled. So it's too early to tell what the class sizes are going to look like. It'll be determined once we get all of the students enrolled. Depends on who goes to virtual and who comes back in person.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I want to thank the parents for their questions. Please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions or would like more information. We'll be happy to hear from you and get back to you as soon as we can. And thank you to all the district staff for being here to support with the answering of the questions. Everybody have a great night and a great rest of your week. Thank you.